Welcome everybody to class. We are here today on Wednesday. We're feeling good. Hope you guys are doing good. Today we're going to be going over the second part of our Nomad series, Nomad Sculpt series. We're going to go over a couple of these menu items that we didn't get a chance to touch last time. And the idea is to maybe touch on a couple tools as well, but we're gonna I want to go through all of the primitives definitely. So today's we're gonna go kind of fast as well. I'm not exactly sure if we're gonna be here for the whole hour because I've got some deadlines for some other stuff. Tomorrow is a fashion show, and we're gonna try to create something new and unique for the fashion show. So we've got some more work to do tonight. So we'll be going into it relatively quickly. If you guys could follow with me, make sure that you like and subscribe, and make sure that if you come to the class, you can click on the link in the back of the class to subscribe to the YouTube. There's also a Discord link if you guys are interested in joining the Discord. And so there's some really cool goodies inside the Discord for everyone who wants to do the building. And welcome to the Metaverse Builders Academy. Uh-oh. Oops. Thought we were broadcasting. There we go. Okay. Alright, so now we're broadcasting, and hopefully, there we go, watch stream. Okie doke. So, the idea, hold on, why am I muted? Oh, oops. There we go. Alright. So the idea for building inside of a 3D program so that we can leverage our ability to sculpt in one place and then move that asset to multiple places. That's why we're in Nomad Sculpt. Magicavoxels is one of the, hold on one second. Magicavoxels is one of the, is that MM? What's up, MM? Chilling. We are recording for YouTube, so we're just getting into it, bro. You didn't miss anything. All right. So we'll be going. I created this with the Triplaner tool, but we'll start over. We're gonna be going over the primitives today, and I'm just gonna go ahead and save this, and then we're gonna just turn it off. And so we went over all the menu items last time, but just really quickly, this is the project menu. It has all of, got you. Yeah, I'm broadcasting the audio through the parcel, bro. You gotta come to the parcel or catch me on YouTube. I might not be broadcasting live. Let me double check. Hold on one second. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Alrighty. One second. Can you hear me, MM? In the are you in the parcel or you on? You can hear me through YouTube
I actually can. I'm in the parcel. I hear you from Discord, but I also hear you.
on the screen.
Correct.
All right, cool. All right, so I'm a mute in here.
Okay.
All right, all right. So cool. So today we're gonna go over. We already went. We're gonna real briefly go over these menu items. This is the project menu. This gives you all of your files, save as, open, yada yada yada, ad infinitum. But what's cool about this is you could also add different files to the scene using this middle button. The import or add to the scene, again, we just talked about it. Your settings for the project autosave. The important part right here though is the export function. So when we want to move our asset into Magicavoxels, what we're going to do is export it as an OBJ. And so this is where we're going to be able to do that, as well as the render function and being able to export PNGs. So the project menu is very, very helpful. Of course, then we got our scene menu. This is where you'll find you'll find the list of all the geometries that are added to the list of the geometries that are added to your scene currently. And so what you want to do, and this is where our primitives are. We'll be going over the primitives very shortly, but again, this is a multi-resolution tab. It gives you a couple different options at the top: your multi-res, your voxel, your dynamic topography, etc., etc. You can find all your information available here. And then the other ones we don't use as much. I haven't applied any materials or done any 3D renderings yet. Right now we're still using the sculpting capabilities for our voxel renders. The shading is interesting because you can create matte caps. So if you switch from PBR, which is the environment-based shading, to matte cap, you can actually switch out the look and the feel of your piece relatively quickly in the matte cap. So post-process background we're not going to deal with for right now. Just know that you can include a reference image if you want one. And then camera, the camera view gives you the option to create a camera view that you can come snap to really quickly. That's what the add view is for. Orthographic or perspective mode. Yeah. And so the rest of this has to deal with the camera. We're not really messing with that for right now. All right, so if we open back up our scene, we'll notice that the reason that we can see this object on the screen, even though it's hidden, is because it's the only object there. And so if it's selected, they'll give you this ghost image. But if I come in here and I add a box, you'll notice that now we can't see the mask anymore. Okay? So it's just something for you guys to know real quick. One thing about Nomad Sculpt, when you first introduce a primitive to the scene, you have to validate it before you can use any of the tools on it. And so there's some changes that you can make to it pre-validation, like use some of these. If I click this little edit, the little orange edit modifier, it will give me these points that allow me to modify the different parts or the different vectors of the geometry here. Okay, and you guys can see, so you can really take advantage of that, especially when the gizmo tool is selected, right? So when the gizmo tool is selected, and let's pick tube, but even with the tube, you can see that what the edit menu does, right? What the edit function does. So it's very, very interesting. You can move it. You can notice how if I use these sort of lighter points of reference points, I can move just one side of it, right? Just move one side of the geometry. But if I use these inside points, I can scale it uniformly, and that's why there's three of them. See, or I could just grab the top or the bottom. So that's something you guys want to pay attention to. But here's something else cool about the geometry of these primitives. If I come into the primitive box, I can actually make changes to this primitive before I validate it. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to click on this little pin link right here for the scene so that we can keep that tab open. And you'll notice that we can select either one of our objects, right? Right now we have the box open, and you can rename the box to whatever you want it to be, right? So let's say cube. All right, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. And so so one of the cool things I like to do, actually the scene is not the one I want. I want to go to the parameters, and you can see right now that here. Let's get a better mat cap. Let's get a better mat cap. Okay. So you can see, and let's go back here to the. Now you can see that you have some pretty gnarly corners right there. You could put your eye out on one of those corners if you're not careful. How do we get some rounded corners, Shifu Lex? Well, I will tell you, it's a combination of the parameter function and the box topology, right? So if you start, well, first thing you want to do is turn on your wireframe down here at the bottom. You can see this little orange thing at the bottom, all the way at the bottom of the screen. This little quick menu will give you access to some of your functionality. Very, very, very handy. And so you can see that when you change the parameter, right, you can see what happens to the amount of geometry in there. So by changing the parameter, right, and changing the different divisions, and then manipulating the topology and bringing the topology down, you'll notice what it's doing to those corners. So the further down you bring the box topology, okay, in the divisions, you make these division, the number here in the division X section lower, and well, for all of them, because you have constant density with this check mark here, but you could do differing values, right? So you can create 11 for that top part, and then maybe 2 for this one, and then for the Z, and so that's how you can get some interesting rectilinear shapes with nice curves, okay? But if you click on constant density, you can notice how by affecting the parameter, you can actually give yourself some interesting shapes like a pill or something along those lines. So that's a very powerful primitive, right? And if you still have the edit selected, you can still make your changes as if it was a traditional box, right? Fantastic. Looks like a love seat cushion to me. Very, very simple primitive. All right, so the next primitive, well, what we're going to do is we're going to delete that. We're going to leave it. We're going to turn it off, and we're going to create a new one. So when you first enter into the scene, you're confronted with a sphere. And again, the sphere has its own post subdivisions for the parameters. You can increase that and decrease the geometry, but you're not going to get it any more curved. Sorry. Sorry. All right. So the trick doesn't work as well on this one, but the sphere is a sphere is a sphere. Pretty simple, right? The cylinder is interesting, and you can create a bunch of really cool shapes with the cylinder, right? See? You got your edit points again, and you can flatten it using these different parts of the gizmo, and yet again you can using the parameter, and by increasing the amount of post subdivisions and decreasing the amount of topology, you can create a barrel. Kind of cool, right? So you guys can see how to get rid of those corners using this primitive section. So using the parameter function and some of these others. So really, really interesting what you can do with some of these. Here, let's turn off our cylinder, and we've got our cone. And now the cone is interesting because when you use these points to change and to edit them, you can edit the width of the cone, right? You can edit the height of the base, right? Or you can edit the height of the top of the vertex, the apex, I guess you could say, right? And you can flatten them for like a triangle shape if you want to get a nice little triangle shape, yada yada yada. Okay. There we go. That's the button. All right, so there you go. And that is our cone primitive. Very, very simple. So next we have our icosahedron. Let's turn off our cone and create our icosahedron. Now, what's interesting about the icosahedron is reducing the geometry on it. There are no individual X, Y, and Z's, so that's why they won't give you you're stuck with the corners. You're kind of stuck with the corners. See, it just makes it bigger or smaller, right? So, and what we're doing when we're changing the parameter, the post subdivision, we're adding subdivisions as if we were in the where is it? Oh, yeah. So if we validate this, right? In order to make the subdivisions at this point, we can't. You see how we don't have access to it because we don't have access to the changes of the parameter and all that stuff because we validated it. So after we validate it, if we want to add more subdivisions, we've got to click this button. And that's interesting though. If I subdivide again, oh, so that's how you do it. Okay, cool. So let me show you guys. If you guys don't want the corners, okay. So I backed up. I hit undo until I came back to pre-validation, right? And so if we come up here to our parameter and we bring our parameter value low, we're not changing the topography here. We're changing the geometry. So that's why the corners aren't getting any bigger. But if we bring the parameter low, right? We bring the parameter relatively low and then we validate, okay? And then we start to subdivide. As we subdivide more and more and create more geometry, we get more and more of the rounded edge. So you can do the rounded edge on the icosahedron if you'd like. That's definitely a possibility. Cool, I'm glad to know that. I'm glad I figured that out. And, yep, and that's a nice staging ground for an interesting conversation. Icosahedron. Somebody look up how many sides an icosahedron has. Okie doke. That's cool. So you can create some interesting, cool shapes. Nice. Okay. But for right now, we are going to delete you, little friend. Pow. Okay. The UV sphere is relatively simple as the sphere, but it gives you the I forgot what UV stands for. Oh, bad Shifu. Okay, I'll figure it out and I'll let you guys know later. But it's basically a sphere. And there are some other changes that you can make to it. Let's see. Let's get in here. Okay, this plane. Oof. So you can create a plane, right? And you can see using the wireframe how many subdivisions we have on there. We do not need all those subdivisions, right? So bring down the constant density from the 200s. And what's cool is you can actually use like these planes to make individual hairs. So see how you can make an individual hair, and then you would validate this, and then you would use the move tool or the trim tool. Let's do oops. There we go. Yep, so you can create a basic hair shape. Why is that like that? Interesting. Yeah, so you can use it's a plane. It doesn't need a lot of explanation. Very simple device. Now we're having fun. This is what I wanted to show you guys, and this is what I think I'll probably be spending some time on, because this is a very powerful function. It's a very powerful primitive. It's the triplanar primitive. Okay, so you see when I click on the triplanar primitive, right? I don't know why we're so zoomed out of this boy, but hold on. There we go. Front. Okay, so the triplanar primitive. Am I above? Yeah, I am above the floor. I think I'm going to turn that floor off, but we'll see. All right, so the triplanar primitive works using 3 planes in order to. It's using the basically the shape that you draw on one of 3 planes or on all 3 planes in order to create geometry. Okay, so what do I mean by that? All right, you can see that there are these. There's the back plane, right? There's the right plane, and then there's the bottom plane. Okay, and hold on. For some reason, our topology is very high, so we're gonna drop down the topology again for right now, and we're gonna actually pin that so we can have that. Okay, so the way that this works, let's make it even smaller. The way that this works for right now, we're gonna leave it right there until we validate it. But so this shape is being created as a result of all 3 of these shapes. Oh, that's interesting. Wait, so the topology determines. Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay, we're gonna just leave it at 103 for right now. So each one of these shapes is lending its shape to this triplanar primitive. So what do I mean by that? So if I come over here and you can see how hold on. So I can affect changes to any of these planes, right? And let's just do unmask. So if I unmask and I draw this using using the you can see my symmetry tool is selected as well. I drew this shape, and what's going to happen is this shadow is going to match up perfectly. When we look at it along the plane, the shadow is going to match up perfectly, okay, with the shape that's being created. So here, I'm cleaning it up right now real quick. But if I draw this, you see how now whatever I draw onto that back wall is going to be created as a shape. See? So this back wall, whatever I draw onto this back wall is going to project its shape forward, right? So hold on. And what we're going to do is we're going to we'll make this radius bigger. We're going to unmask, and we're going to delete everything off that back wall. Now, there is no shape on that back wall, so it's not affecting the change here. But if we look at the right, you can see how that fits that shadow. And if you look at the bottom, you can see how for some reason it fits that shadow. It doesn't really, right? All right, so let's come in here and let's clean this up a little bit. All right. All right. And let's go to the back, and we go to the back here. What we're going to do is take it off of unmask, and we're going to give ourselves some geometry. Okay. Now it won't go beyond these sides because the geometry of the bottom is restricting it. So if I do that, then you see I get some ears on the side, right? So if I go to unmask and I come here and I clean up this head, right? Oh, we don't want to do that. Let's make this size smaller, right? So I can create some funky ears, right? And then we're gonna bring this guy's head back. And then over here, that's interesting. Oh, it's because I had symmetry on. Alright, so it can only go so far out here because yep, see? Is this working? Alright, so this is making sense. Alright, cool. So you can actually create some geometry for yourself initially, right? Alright, so as you can see there's definitely some room for workarounds, but you can create the basic tenor of your geometry relatively quickly, right? Yeah. So that's interesting. But yeah, you can see how this works relatively simply. Alright, so you get your basic shape, and then what you do is you come over here, you click validate, and now you've got your shape that you can play around with. Okay? So that's all of the primitives. That's all the primitives. Right now, we're going to go into some of the tools. We already talked about the clay and the brush. The clay and the brush work concurrently. One, I think, adds geometry and takes away geometry, while one just moves geometry. So, yeah. So, we're going to create some space in here. Right? So you can see how I'm actually subtracting geometry, whereas if I turn off this little modifier key, you'll see how I can then add the geometry back, right? Looks pretty gnarly though. And so you can always come over here and hit the smooth tool, and depending on what you have your settings set to. Now here's the funny thing. This bar doesn't end when you reach the top. It still goes, the intensity gets higher and higher. So you can see the intensity getting higher and higher. So this thing doesn't play around. Add some more smooth and smooth this out a little bit. Now, we're only going to have so much ability to smooth right now because you can see the density of our faces. We don't have a lot of geometry here, right? So So just using kind of what we got here already, right? We can create a basic shapes, basic face. Let's try the brush on subtract and see what happens. Okay, so the brush on subtract doesn't get rid of the geometry. Interesting. So let's start this over. Let's go back, and instead of using the clay, which is destructive, let's use the brush, which seems to be non-destructive. See? It's just moving. I think it's actually generating more geometry now that I think about it, because you can see, or maybe not. I'll do some reading, you guys, and we'll definitely check it out. But yeah, so interesting. Yeah, the brush looks a lot better than just lumping clay. Wow, that looks so much better. Yeah. Ooh, spooky. New mask alert. Incoming. Alright. So the move tool is also, I think, the same. The drag tool is the same, is the equivalent between the move and the clay is destructive, like the move is destructive, whereas the drag just sort of gives you what's there. So if we take our brush, make it a little smaller, give homeboy a lip, come on, smaller, give homeboy a lip, then we're going to hit subtract, we can get rid of some of that inside of there, and underneath, then we're going to hit add, we're going to get rid of subtract again, and we're going to bring this out. And you can see how beneficial that triplaner is. So now that you've got some of that geometry there, you can start dragging. So depending on the brush size, you can fix his nose a little bit. Right? So you can fix his nose a little bit, right? Of course, we can always come over here and smooth down some of this stuff. Although I don't like the way the smooth works. So what we're gonna do, instead of that, the smooth, we're gonna come over here and we're going to mask out the mouth, right? And what's cool about that is if you go to the settings inside of the mask, you can hit blur a couple times so it blurs it, and then you can hit invert, right? And so I just want to, I gave it a subdivide so I have a little bit more geometry. You can see it smoothed it out a little bit, but we want to just affect this area. So I want to bring his whole mouth out, and based on how I created that mask. So I'm going to increase the radius of my brush. Oh. Yep. And you can see I have to create the Incredible Hulk here. Okay, so then we come up here and get rid of, you got to go back to your mask tool, then go to settings and hit clear. And now you can see, it's kind of cool. So we're going to, Yeah, it's on symmetry. Okay, cool. And we're gonna get rid of you. All right, cool. So you guys can see there's a little bit of you know, you can see the helpfulness of being able to use the Triplaner tool to get you started, right? This is cool. And so now if we wanted to make some changes, we can bring the resolution down a little bit, and you'll notice how much more malleable it is. If we smooth, maybe we want to maybe add the brush a little bit here to fill in some of this area. Didn't really need those divots. And we're going to smooth that by an obnoxious amount. Actually, let's see if we can reverse it a little bit. Oops. Alright. So that's not, oh, that's relax. Okay. So if I had the relax function on, it wasn't giving me what it needed to be given. It was not doing the smooth. Alright, cool. So based on the intense, there we go. The relax was set, and that's what was messing me up a little bit. So we can smooth this out a little bit inside the eyes, right? Smooth some of this out, right? Alright, cool. This is coming along. If I wanted to fix his nostrils, maybe. So the way that you can create creases is interesting. You just pick the crease button, right? And you come in here, and it's really a glorified pinch function, right? So you could come in here with that, and then you come here to the inflate and bring this back out, right? Oh, maybe I didn't like that. Okay. Okay, we're going to go back to the brush and the subtract, and we're going to come in here and get this line right. And then we're going to hit subtract, and we're going to add this lip back. Uh-oh, that's interesting. So, you can see the process that's involved. Oof. Alright, well. So then, of course, you'd want to come in here and subdivide and bring the resolution back up high so that you can see what you're working with. Maybe the crease might work a little better. Yep, on this higher res. Yep. Alright, so let's go back down. And let's add tubes for lips, okay? So let's come to the tube tool, right? And what we want to do is right now we're in view mode. So we want to come over here to the curve mode or to the path mode, right? Either one. I like the curve mode, and we're going to draw our tube in. Okay? So now that we have our tube in, this is basically, you know, a regular tube. But when you click on it, right, you'll notice that it still as well needs validation. And there are all these different features that are available. So if I hit snap, and let's see. All right, let's pick the tube. Right. All right. Now you'll notice. Sorry, I don't want that. I want this. You'll notice that how when you hit snap, if you hit snap, it'll draw onto the geometry. So we definitely want to select it, and we want it snapped. But then when you notice, the closed function will close it, so it goes from being a tube to a torus of sorts, if you will. We don't want it closed. The radius function, when we click it once, you'll notice how wow, what is going on? Okay. Let's bring it out a little bit. Hold on. Okay. So oh, okay, that's what we did wrong. Alright, so I'm going to undo that. We'll put it back where it was. Okay, now. Alright, so if we click on the radius tool, we don't see anything yet. The reason we don't see anything yet is because we haven't clicked on edit. Okay, so when you click on your edit function, what you'll notice is all these little points come up. So if you have one radius, that one radius button is this little yellow icon, and it sets the radius for the whole lip. Okay, sets the radius for the whole lip. But if you click it twice, then you can set the radius for the one side of the lip and the other side of the lip. Dig? Right? If you click it again, then you'll set radiuses all throughout the lips. And you'll notice that these paths are here, and because it's set to snap, I can't really take it off of the geometry that it's on. Now, I can drag one path, one anchor point on top of another to get rid of them. So if I have too many, right? If I have too many, and now that I have the radius selected for this, right? I can come in here and make the lip the size that I want it to, right? Because it's set to snap, it wants to snap to the geometry, which is a good thing. Okay. So if I make this, make this particularly small, you can click on these points too, and they go from being curves to being corners. See? And you can actually click on the point in the midst of it to create another one, right? So, what's cool about this now is once I get this kind of where I want it to be, right? Once I got this kind of where I want it to be, right, for the lip, I can hit mirror and it'll give me the opposite. It'll mirror it across on the other side so that I can see what the lips look like together, right? So now you can kind of see what that top lip kind of looks like. All right. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense, you guys. Cool. And so if I hit validate, now I have my shape. And I can actually start using bits and pieces to manipulate. Right? And so let's see, we might want to flatten this a little. Yeah, so you can see how we still have to play with it a little. It's still kind of strong for flatten. Let's do a drag. Alright, so you guys see how it works. And then, you know, definitely needs some work, but, you know. Alright. Let's see, what's our time looking at? 47. Okay. So we've gone over all of the primitives. We've gone over a few of the tools in here. Okay. One of the things that was asked earlier outside of class was here. Let's just go to a different one. So hold on. Let's name this. This is top lip. And let's say lip top. Okay. And then the triplaner is a face, we know. So let's close that for a second, right? And let's bring out our cone, right? Alright, now somebody had asked earlier, I think it was MM, how do we create a flat edge? Could we use flatten? And I'm going to show you what that does. So right now we've got flatten set. It's set to about 100%. And if I start, wait, is this needs to be validated? Okay, it's validated. If I start flattening, you can see what flatten does. Uh-oh, that's fill. Okay, take off fill and flatten. Just sort of flattens, right? But you're not going to get what you're looking for out of that, right? Say I wanted this, say I wanted, yeah, so if I wanted to make this part flat, you can see it's doing a horrendous job, right? So if I wanted to make that part flat, what I'd have to do is I validate it again, and then I could come in here to the trim, and I can go to line, and I can chop that part off, and that's how you flatten. See? And because of the parameter on this, you might not get what you're looking for. Pow. That's how you flatten, okay? You need to make sure that your geometry is what you need it to be too, because we really changed the parameters on this in order to make it round, remember? So you want to make sure that once it's the size and the shape and stuff that you want, you might even have to come in here and, I don't know, subdivide and make sure you're flush. Wow, that's better. Okay. That's a little better. All right. That's how you take a bite out of that piece of cake, right? You can do the same thing with this ellipse. So if we go to the top, you can trim a piece right out of it, right? Split, the way split works is you would pick like the line and you keep both of the pieces, but you just split them into two different geometries, right? So now I can pick one and move one independently of the other. See how that works? Okie doke. Alright, so let's go. The rest of these, we're going to deal with them. But right now, I think it's important, before we get too far out from our time, I think it's important that we show you how layers work, okay? So let's go ahead and turn off this cylinder. Turn those off and turn the face and the top lip back on, right? And so we're gonna go front, and we're gonna go layers. Okay. So before we do that, we're gonna take the top lip and we're gonna check mark the top lip and the triplanar face, and we're going to do a voxel merge. Okay. So we want to turn the resolution up a little bit first, so there's nice big resolution, and we're going to voxel merge. And you can see that it did a pretty good job on the merge. It's because it's so high. So if we come down here to multi-resolution, we can actually remesh the voxels now that we've combined them. I remeshed it to 265, looks pretty good. Now, we can bring it down even more, and then we can always come back to multi-res and subdivide. So if I'm at the voxels menu and let's say 150, which is where it was initially, right? Let's remesh to 150, and then we can always come in here and subdivide and add the geometry back. But when we add the geometry back, we're in a position to come back down and affect it, right? So let's deal with layers. So now that this is all one piece of geometry, okay? Now this is all one piece of geometry. We can come over here to the layers function. We can add a layer. And what layers do is, right here you can see there's the under this trash can, you see how it says grayed out, it says base. So layers allow you to make changes that you can then instigate. So I'm sorry, you can then turn on and off based on it being on a layer, right? So let's give them a sneer, right? Oh, let's make him malevolent, right? Okay. There we go. All right. We're going to inflate that a little bit. Oh, that didn't work. So let's brush on. Let's brush on some geometry here in the cheeks. And And then we're gonna go back to drag. Okay. Okay. All right, cool. So now we can see that our little goblin or whatever this is changing. So this is the base layer, okay? And when I turn back on this sort of goblin layer, you can see how I can make changes to the geometry, and the layers will save the data and the information for me. So say we're gonna call this, we're gonna rename this to sneer, right? And then we're going to create another layer where we are going to give them horns, I guess, right? Alright, let's try this. Not quite what I wanted, but it's a little too strong. Okie doke. Okie doke. Alright. So basically we covered most of the things that we wanted to cover tonight. I'm thinking. Alright, there we go. Doing that. Interesting. So it's not quite symmetrical, as you guys can see. Alright, so there you go. Alright, so there you go. Really ugly, but you know, that's what a goblin's supposed to look like, I guess. Alright, and now that you can notice that with the layer function, right, you can make changes to these, right? So this is with nothing on, right? This was the original base layer. This is what made it into a goblin sneer, and then this is what gave me my goblin ears, right? And I could actually have, like, let's say I wanted goblin ears on but no sneer. That's what the base layer affected by the other layer would look like. So you can see you can create some pretty cool and interesting geometry. It's It's right there for you guys. All right. And I think, hey, that's a good place to stop. It's a good place to stop, you guys. All right, cool. So, what we're going to do, though, before we stop is I'm going to save this to my G drive real quick, and I'm going to drop it into Magicavoxels for you guys to see. So just give me 1 second. Alright, yeah, you guys should probably see this part too. Hold on. Uh-oh. Here we go. Alright, so check this out. Once you have your file, right, the way you want it, let's just pretend this is what I wanted. Oh no, I want to turn on both of them. There we go. That's what we wanted. We wanted the snare. Okay. Alright, so once we have our geometry the way we want it, we want to select all of the geometry that we want to take along with it. All we really want is this piece right here, so that's fine. And then we'll go to our project menu, okay? And where it says export, we're going to click on OBJ, and we want to click on export OBJ, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it to... I'm going to send it to myself. Direct message. Who are these people? Lex Luger. There we go. I'm going to send it to myself as an OBJ. Oh, unable to share, of course. Okay. All right, so we're gonna try it again. We're gonna save this to our drive. So yeah, we're gonna save this to our drive. We'll be right back, you guys. Okay, we are back, and we've got our class test object right here. What we're going to do is we're going to come over here, we're going to select all, we're going to delete, and here I'm just going to bring it in at a megavox file so you guys can see how beautiful it is. 126, hit enter, and then there we go. And we're just gonna drag our goblin in here. Uh-oh. Oh no. Okay, so so you can see that there's a problem. Just because we weren't looking at our geometry doesn't mean it's not there. So when we exported everything. So I'm going to go in and delete the other geometry. Okay? And uh-oh. Okay. Now, and then we're gonna export that again. I'm on the don't mind me, I'm on the iPad here. Let's just see if we can nope, that's not what we want. Let's put it in the drive and let's try this again. Ha! Okay. So we're gonna hit Control and do. Give me a second. Okay, cool. We are here, and let's try this again. There it is. So now you can see the geometry. You can see that, you know, Magicavoxels has done its best to sort of create this for us. It's created the sculpting for us, and now it's just on us to come in and to paint it. Okay, and yeah, we could let's save this as Gremlin. Let's go ahead and save this as Gremlin in the Megavox. And we will paint it next time. How about that? But you can see the sculpture, you can see, you know, all of our hard work at work, and it did the best it could to sort of improvise, right? So, let's see if we turn this on and this on and that on. There we go. Maybe turn that off. Now that we have the shadows, it's a little easier for you to see the geometry. Okay? Pretty cool little gremlin. That's a pretty cool little gremlin. Here, let's see what happens when we downscale him to 63 by 63 and then 32 by 32. That's still not a bad gremlin. That is not a bad gremlin. I think, yeah, that's pretty cool actually. So yeah, so we could start here with the base, with this basis, and create, you know, create our wearable. This is wearable size at this point. So yeah, that's pretty much how it works, you guys. Uh-oh. Sorry. Yeah, behind the scenes. There we go. Yeah, a little bit behind the scenes, but we're going to be closing down our stream now. Thank you guys for rocking with us, man. You guys are the best. Please subscribe to the YouTube if you got anything out of this. Also, I do take donations. So here's my link tree. If you go to lexluker.card with 2 R's.co, this little link right here will get you to my link tree, and you can find all kinds of different ways to support me. You can buy some wearables. You can definitely subscribe to the YouTube. Join the Discord, because we got a really cool directory for you guys. Once you've downloaded Magicavoxels, we've got a really cool directory with shaders and stuff in it. And we're going to get a schedule for you guys so that you guys can count on this. It's Wednesdays at 7, but I can see now that we definitely need to go back into our parcel instructions, so our 301 class. And I see that there's still more room in the 201 for us to deal with more megavoxel files. So I really appreciate you guys. Hey, is that Forte? Oh, that's MM. What's up, MM? So, yeah. So thank you guys for rocking with me, and we will see you guys later.